Time is a river that never stops flowing, and yet within its currents there are moments when one feels the impossible weight of choice, when the ticking of each second echoes like a drumbeat of destiny. In a forgotten corner of the world, hidden among dust and silence, a man named Elias uncovered something that was never meant to be found. He was not a scientist by trade, not a hero by nature. He was an ordinary man burdened by extraordinary grief, mourning the loss of his daughter, Clara, whose laughter once filled his small home with light. For years he carried the unbearable weight of regret, whispering to himself that if only he could go back, if only he could hold her hand one more time, he would give anything. It was that ache, that relentless hunger for redemption, that led him into the depths of an abandoned observatory, where an ancient device hummed softly as if waiting for him. The machine was unlike anything he had ever seen, built of gears that shimmered like starlight and symbols etched into metal that seemed older than the earth itself. No blueprint, no instructions, only a single lever, daring him to test the limits of fate. When Elias pulled it, the world shattered. In an instant, he was thrown backward through centuries, his body dissolving into threads of light and then reforming in another age. The air was heavy with the scent of fire, and the skies rumbled with storms that had not yet been named by humankind. He stood trembling, barefoot in a time long before his own, and yet his heart did not tremble. For the first time in years, he felt a strange clarity. Perhaps this was his chance, not only to reclaim his daughter, but to rewrite the future of a fractured world. With every leap the machine allowed, Elias found himself in moments pivotal to humanity's fate. The wars that scarred nations, the discoveries that illuminated minds, the betrayals that shifted power. Each moment presented him with temptation. If he nudged here, if he whispered there, perhaps he could alter the future so Clara would live. But every act carried consequences far heavier than his grief. Saving one life might cost thousands. Restoring one joy might destroy an entire world. The cruel paradox pressed against him like iron chains. He encountered others across the timelines, a poet on the eve of execution who begged him to carry her words forward, a soldier who believed that dying in battle was the only way to preserve peace, a child staring at the ruins of her village, eyes already aged with sorrow. They all looked to Elias as though he were something more than human, a traveler of destiny, a being who had seen what lay beyond the curtain of time. And yet, Elias remained just a father who longed for his child. Each encounter carved him deeper, forcing him to ask himself if redemption came from bending time to his will, or from accepting what had already passed. He began to see that the machine was less a gift than a test, placed in his hands to reveal not the power of time, but the nature of the human heart. The darker he traveled, the more he glimpsed the abyss of possibility. He saw futures where humanity's greed had scorched the earth, where cities stood empty and rivers ran black. He saw empires rise on cruelty and collapse into silence. Yet he also saw sparks. A healer in a plague-ridden village who gave away her last medicine, a scientist who refused to sell his invention to those who would weaponize it, a stranger who carried a wounded enemy on his shoulders across a battlefield. Those moments, small and fragile, pulsed brighter than any empire. Elias began to realize that time was not meant to be rewritten in grand strokes, but in the choices of the present, choices no machine could ever command. And so, the machine became less of a weapon and more of a mirror, showing him the cost of obsession and the possibility of release. Still, the longing for Clara tore at him. One final journey brought him back to the night of the accident, when the rain fell in violent sheets and his hands trembled on the steering wheel. He watched from the shadows as his past self made the choices that led to his daughter's death. He could have shouted, could have intervened, could have broken the very spine of time to save her. His whole body ached with the desire to act. But in that suspended breath of eternity, Elias understood. To save her would unravel the countless lives he had witnessed. To deny the river its flow would dam it forever, drowning the world in chaos. With tears streaming down his face, he let the moment pass, unchanged. His heart cracked open, but for the first time it did not break in despair. It broke in love. Love not just for Clara, but for every soul whose fragile flame carried the future forward. When he returned to his own time, the machine was silent. Its light had dimmed, as though it knew its purpose was complete. Elias sat in the quiet observatory, hands trembling, the ghosts of centuries echoing within him. He closed his eyes and whispered his daughter's name, not with desperation, but with peace. In that silence, he felt her presence, not as a child lost, but as a spirit woven into the fabric of all he had seen. In the poet's courage, the healer's sacrifice, the stranger's compassion. Clara was not gone. She was within the very heartbeat of humanity, within the fragile yet unyielding hope that carried people forward, no matter the darkness. And so Elias walked out of the observatory, no longer burdened by the chains of what could have been, but carrying the gift of what still might be. He dedicated his days to small acts of kindness, to listening when others spoke, to carrying burdens that were not his own. People began to notice, to gather, to believe, and in those ripples, the future shifted, not through machines or rewritten history, but through the quiet power of choice. For time is not conquered by force, it is redeemed by love, by courage, by hope. In the end, Elias discovered that the greatest journey was not backward or forward, but within. He did not need to save Clara to honor her. He needed only to live in a way that made her proud. And in that, he found redemption. This was the truth the machine had shown him, the truth time itself had whispered, that even when all seems lost, the river carries us toward dawn. No darkness is eternal, no sorrow is final, and as long as even one heart dares to choose compassion over despair, humanity will find its way home. The last hourglass does not measure the end, but the beginning. And so, Elias, once a broken man, walked into the morning light carrying not the weight of regret, but the flame of hope. For the destiny of humankind is not bound by time, but freed by love.